So we're going to talk about Pathway Student Data Management. We're a little bit early. Typically the data window does not open until the first week in May because it is dependent upon some kids reports that we will talk more about in detail. But we're going to go ahead and talk about it, and the Pathways Help Desk has a really good checklist that we have developed over years of experience helping people with the procedures. And I believe, Joni, that you have that for everybody. If not, we can get that to you, and or just please email the Pathways Help Desk at KSDE.org. And Amanda and I can help you with that.
We will add it to our resource list here at the end of our session, and I'll also include it with the link to the recording.
Okay, sounds perfect. All right. So the process of student data management in the Pathways system actually begins in kids. There is a report called KCAN, K-C-A-N. What that report in kids does is populate the students based on the courses that they have taken from within your pathway. So based on that connection, the link of the name of the student to the course number, it brings the student's name into the pathway system, and then that provides their name and a brief bit of information about the courses that they have taken in the assigned student screen. So before anything can start, I need to have you guys talk to the person who is in your district that does the kids reporting, because they actually have a person who's trained for the data submissions, and they are the only one who can do it. So please find out who that might be if, when you do all this management process that we talk about, you don't see any names, okay? All right, it's really important that all the names be there for you. We have, in addition to the very first screen you will see, we'll provide the names based on what was sent to kids, but then, the KCAN report, but then there's also a screen called Show All Students screen that there is a link to, and that will provide you every student's name from the whole EOYA report, which is the end of the year something. I'm sorry, I don't know the acronym on that one, but so we have the access of both of those reports in Pathways, so that hopefully we can get every student that we need for you to see. So another thing I wanted to highlight on this screen is point number 3. We have a couple reports in KCCMS, the Kansas Course Code Management System, as well as Pathways, that are very beneficial. One being the Pathways Courses report. And my next slide is going to show you what it looks like, but you can find that in the KCCMS system and in Pathways. And this is going to show you, well, the small picture on the left is from KCCMS, but those reports will show you the course detail that you see on the right is from the pathway. So what you're able to do with that report is share it with your counselor and or any administration that does enrollment for in your local system, because your local system has to mirror KCCMS and Pathways. So the course data in Pathways comes from KCCMS. So we just want it all to jive. So when they do the reporting in the kids system, the course code data matches what's in your pathway, and so your student does not error out of the system. Because without the course code data being accurate, your student cannot connect with that, as well as teachers in the EDCS report. But that's already gone by, but that is another thing that we need to take a look at. So I wanted to really mention that report. It's a really good one to start off the year with, and make sure that your coding is correct. And that will help a lot of different people at your district. Okay, why do we collect student data? The biggest reason is for Perkins funding. The Carl D. Perkins legislation is federal, and Kansas gets about $11 million, which we split with the Board of Regents. So this money is sent out to school districts to use on their career technical education programs. There is a caveat to that, and that is what this student data is providing, is that we have to let them know how we as a state are measuring up to a few core indicators, which are basically tests and calculations of your data that will let us know if we pass. And based on that, we get to keep our money. So that's why, I'm always calling and saying, if you haven't put your data in, we really need you to put your data in, because it doesn't just affect your school district, which it could. I mean, you could lose your funding portion, but our whole state could lose the funding as well. And so that's why we want to be really diligent about providing the student data information. I realize that right now is a really crazy time, and there are other things that will come before this, but I want to emphasize to everybody that student data management is open until August 15th or a little bit later. We usually roll pathways to the new school year at the beginning of September. So we have time, and I want everybody to know that we at the Pathways Help Desk are going to be available to do one-on-one training with you, and or any emails or calls that you have. Please just let us know. Right now I've got office hours set up. I'm going to send out a reminder email to let people know that Amanda and I are just sitting by, waiting to answer questions between 10 and 11 on Monday and Wednesday. So that way you can see us, you can talk to us live, you don't have to wait for an email, okay? All right, we are gonna go forward here. This is what we collect. Pathway participants and concentrators of any type. There are 3 types of concentrators. The concentrator who exited is going to need more data submitted. They're going to need the competency percentage, or the average grade of their pathway courses, or the pass-fail of an assessment, an end of pathway assessment, okay? The completer status is a state status. It's not a federal submission, but we do collect that information. It is just a checkbox, and I'll show you that a little bit later on. Single parent status is for the student, not for the student's parents. And it is in the kids system, but sometimes it's not entered by the person who's doing that. So if you see in Pathways that this status is not correct, you have the ability to change that and add in whether or not a student is pregnant or a single parent, okay? And the reason I say that, a lot of people are not comfortable with revealing that, but they are one of our protected special population groups that the Perkins money is supposed to go to help. And so that's why Perkins is so interested in whether or not the single parent status is accurate or not. Follow-up information is on a different screen. It is for your concentrators who exited from last year. So we will show you where that is. It's on your left-hand side of the screen in your pathway system. And it's really pretty easy to do. If your students are not there, then we have reports that can look up who was submitted last year and what they were reported as, so you can see whether or not that is, accurate or not. So one of the things I wanted to let people know is that a good resource because the teachers leave for the summer, and sometimes this data is done, submitted in the summer, I usually say that you could make it a part of the end of the year teacher checklist, you know, so that this is something that they have to submit before they can leave for this summer. And sometimes that works out real well for the district. There's a lot of times though that I am working with a superintendent who has no idea what they are doing in the system, and so we have to kind of muddle through the information, but we usually get it done. Okay, the actual procedure of student data management. Number one I have is the checklist that Joni said is going to be in your Padlet. So there are lots of different or not lots, but there are different ways you can gather this data. Okay, and I really believe that the gathering of the student data is the hardest part. The entering is really pretty cut and dry. So if you have a spreadsheet system already set up, or if you do not, we have an example from Valley Center School District that they shared with us, and it was just the example of how they collected their student data and tabulated it for the students. We also have a brand new-ish report in Pathways called the Student Career Course Completion Report. It will tabulate 6 years of data from the kids system that has been submitted, and it will total the number of credits that the students have in each pathway that your school district has. So what I typically do is have people pull that report in Pathways and download it in Excel, because then you can manipulate the data that you get. The hardest part, I believe, sometimes is that the federal reporting requires that the student data that we submit is unduplicated. That means that they can only be assigned to one pathway. Whether or not a student is a concentrator or a completer in more than one pathway is completely possible. And you could reward that at your district level, and that would be great. But in Pathways, for the feds, we only need your student to be in one pathway, please. And sometimes determining what that pathway is can be a choice. So if your concentrators who exited, which would be a senior with 2 or more credits, if they qualify for more than one pathway, they usually have 3 choices to offer to decide which pathway to pick. So the number 1 choice would be, does the student meet the non-traditional gender qualification for your pathway? Which would be an example of which would be, is it a male student in a health science pathway? Is it a female in a construction pathway that you are going to assign? We do have a core indicator that specifically addresses non-traditional pathway success. And so that's why we want to kind of highlight the opportunity to show your student in a non-traditional pathway first if they qualify for more than one pathway. I also want to say that you can take a look at things the way they're listed based on what benefits your district the most. If you have a student that qualifies for more than one pathway and you have a pathway that does not have any concentrators in it, it might behoove your district to put that concentrator that exited, or just a regular concentrator who is not a senior, in the pathway that will benefit your school district as well. So, you know, those decisions are made based on what would benefit your state, your district, and your school. This data does not go back and attach to the student in any way. So that is why the third thing to look at is just put them in the pathway where you know that that's the direction they're going. So I know that that's a lot of information. So I wanted to stop for a minute and see if anybody had any questions. I could look at the chat real quick too and see what that
Angie, there
says.
is one here at the end. It says, so the student career course completion report still includes the junior high or middle school courses. And they're saying that they can't use the junior high course credits if we're not providing those students secondary credits, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. And a lot of times that's going to be it's going to be a difference in your calculation. So if you know that your school district does not give high school credit for these courses, you're probably going to be okay, because a lot of times the school districts do not submit middle school completed courses to the KCAN report anyway. So, you know, there's a little bit of research that you need to do, but if your school does give your student high school credit, then you can either have the person add the student to the KCAN reporting, or just know that you need to add that course in when you're calculating their number of credits. So on your report, you're going to see 1.5, but you know that this list of students took a half credit intro course, so that student would be a concentrator at 2 credits based on that. So there are some glitches to this report. We don't know which school districts are not giving credit. We only know what they have submitted in the KCCMS system, Kansas Course Code Management System. And so when in the pathway it looks like they're getting the half credit, then that's what we are going with. But the districts, because Kansas is an open policy state, then they can decide whether or not they want to give that high school credit to the students. So we have a little bit of give and take there on that one. Okay. And did that answer that okay, Joni, you think?
Yeah, I think so. Basically is what I'm hearing from you is it's going to, because of the way the system is set up, it's going to capture everything that's reported. However, if you're not counting your middle school, then you'll just have to filter those numbers out so that you come up with your correct pieces. But it is a good starting place for you. It's a good checks and balance that you're not grossly underreporting or overreporting in some areas. So, Angie, the other questions that are coming in are dealing with the student names that are coming up, and that they're asking questions like, when you, if your reports didn't show all the student names, can you select all students and can you add them at that time? If they're missing, can you resubmit your KCAN reports with the corrections? So these are the last couple questions that are on the chat. I'm probably summarizing them very quickly here, but basically it's dealing with student membership that's reported on the reports.
Okay, yeah, all of the above, basically. The show all students link will show you the list of students from a completely different kids report. So this will provide you with a lot more students to pick from, just in case you have a senior who did not take any CTE courses in their senior year, but they already qualified as a concentrator in their junior year. So then you can find that name under show all students, and that student would be there. Now, if you are missing somebody, I have had school districts go back and submit more data to the KCAN report to add in a student's name. So, well, the EOYA though is supposed to have everybody. So there for a while that was not working properly, but we have gotten that link established to a different report so that we can make sure we get most of the names. I know I'm running long on time. Do I have any more time?
Sure, because I think Jody said hers wasn't going to take a full 30 minutes. So we would sure like to have you give us as much data as we can on the reporting piece, especially before we wrap up this school year. And that I know it is a great incentive to the state that we try to get our data correct, and that every school is reporting, and that our numbers in Kansas are looking rather low. But my guess is that they're not low because we aren't getting our students to the target. They might be low because we haven't gotten our data submitted as we should be. So we certainly want to take time making sure that everyone knows how to access their data, how to submit it, and make sure that every district is supporting, and not just one person in the pathway reports, but every pathway is including all their information. That's essential to us in Kansas with our federal dollars and what's coming down to us in the future, that we're held accountable for those numbers as well. So certainly take some time, Jody. Hopefully that doesn't interfere on your side too much, but we'll continue on here. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I just want to show you what this report looks like just really quick. You can see the arrow number 1 is pointing at a gal named Katie. So she has 2.5 credits in animal science and 2.5 credits in comprehensive ag. So that's when you would want to take a look at the pathways, whether they qualify for non-traditional. Now you would think comprehensive ag qualifies as a non-traditional pathway, but it does not. And the federal government took that out of the list for some reason. So in the first example, I would choose Katie to go into animal science, okay? Now, you know, that's just what we are asking as a state. That is not necessarily what you have to put in there, okay? All right, in the number 2 example, we've got a guy named Craig. He's a concentrator in animal science, comp ag, and mobile equipment. So this gentleman would not be, he would not be non-traditional in any of those. So we basically will see which one of those pathways benefits our district, like which one has the fewest concentrators in there, and probably plug him in there, and or pick the one he's going for as his career choice, okay? I have been talking a lot about the status that we give to the students. This screen has the definitions on there. They are also on the checklist of procedures. One thing I want to point out is that the Perkins 5 legislation that just came out actually set the participant status for us, so that we had to change ours back to 1 credit for a participant. Therefore, about 3 or 4, yeah, 3 years, we were using the half credit as a participant to help increase our numbers and also line up with other states in their data submission. So that is the only thing that has changed this year for Perkins 5. So I guess I feel a little bit lucky that, you know, we haven't had a million changes that were assigned that you will need to look at when you are assigning your students. So I'm not going to really read these to you. The completer, like I said, is a state achievement. We do not report that to the federal government, so it is not going to be one of your status definitions that you have to pick from. It is just a checkbox for information, okay? And anybody you assign this year as a concentrator who exited is going to show up next year as a student that needs follow-up data added for them, okay? All right, that's a lot. The next screen,
Angie, I'm just going to pop in here with a question real quick on the student data follow-up. Normally it was due today, the 15th. Do you have another I think it was extended out. Do you have a new target deadline or what you're recommending to folks as they work through their data?
Yeah, thank you for that, Joni. I didn't realize that today would have been the actual due date for follow-up data, but we just decided we're going to leave it open for the duration of the student data management window, so it won't close until August 15th. Just like everything else, we're just going to leave everything open because we realize that it's hard to find time to get in there and do all of this stuff, especially now. So that's number one there. Number two is, the window. I still have IT people working in the pathway system. Typically, we will open it at the beginning of May for student data management to happen. So right now would be a good time for you to check with your kids person on who and when they usually submit the KCAN report. That way you know that your names are going to be in there whenever you sit down to take a look at your data, okay? The participant status, just to let you know, updates, it actually adds itself to any student who is checkmarked on the assigned student screen, okay? So if you have a student who is not a participant for the pathway at all, then just don't check their name at all, because they have to have 1 credit to even be a participant in a pathway. And as soon as you check their name, that's what they get assigned. If they are anything besides a participant, that's when you have to go to the update student screen to change their status, okay? All right, I'm gonna move on. See, did I already say these? Oh, make sure you save periodically the update student screen if you have quite a few students on there that you are working on. Just don't want people to get timed out, because we know that this student data is the reason that Pathways does that timeout thing that we hate. I think it's supposed to be 15 minutes of unattended screen time, but we can still be actually working in it whenever the system thinks it's unattended. So it's not my favorite thing at all. So I understand your pain. It happens to me all the time. So one of the things I wanted to point out is that we do not ask you to assign senior participants, because they will not have the opportunity to become a concentrator because they've already graduated. So we felt like that kind of waters down the data, because you get a group of students that are in your participant data, if you did assign your seniors, that would never be able to go forward to a concentrator. So that's why over the past years, we've determined to please just leave out your senior participants when you are doing student data management. The downloadable basic enrollment report is one that I have not mentioned. It is going to tell you the status of the students that were submitted in years past. It is a good document to take a look at when you need a place to start, like who was submitted last year and what was their status. And it also would be the document that I tell people to use when they are trying to break down their Perkins car report data documents. So basically, later on in the presentation, it shows you what those car reports tabulate, and it will tell you who is included in those reports. Okay, a lot of times I also have people that tell them to save that report after they're done doing their data. Pull that report and save it, because Pathways it's technology, and sometimes things happen and things don't get saved properly. And every year we have one district that has entered their data, but it didn't show up. So, just to protect you, you might consider doing that. I have some screenshots coming up. I'm going to probably go through them fairly quickly and just say high points, okay? But stop me if you guys think of something or if you have a question. So all data is submitted under the started at the My CPPSAs page. You would pull your report or pull your pathways up based on the 1920 school year. That is the school year we are ending right now. Even if you do this data in August, you're still going to have to put in the 1920 school year to get your pathways listed, okay? Then you, when you get them listed, you will see these action items. I want you to click on Assign Students in the action items there. It's going to look like this. Those student names comes from the kids system, okay? It's going to have a column that says suggested pathway per kids. Doesn't say STCO anymore. It also has a column that says what they were in last year, prior year assigned pathway. So you can take a look at that and realize that in this example, Theodore last year was in education, but this year the courses he's taken says he needs to be in construction. So you know that you have a decision to make there, okay? This is where I was telling you that anybody who you mark with a check mark is going to show up as a participant on the Assign Update Student screen, okay? So make sure that if your student is more than a participant, that you move on, go to the Update Current Student screen, and this is what it's going to look like. I've showed a few statuses there that show the data, where it's submitted, how it looks. We've got the definition for the completer student. There would be 3 credits with the addition of a certification or a passing score on a third-party end of pathway assessment, okay? So just to let you guys know, we also have the ability to upload this data from a file. So we'll talk about that as well. Does anybody have any questions on student data definitions? I know usually I get some, so I just thought I'd take a minute to talk about that. It
looked like it, Angie.
Okay, good. I'm gonna move. Okay, so this is what the upload student formatting says. We've got the data specifications are on the back of the checklist. In the Assign Student screen, you will see where it says Upload, Assign Update File, okay? So if you create one of these files, you are basically assigning and uploading all of the data, assigning and updating the status of your student at the same time. So it is completely doing everything all for you, okay? This is just real quickly what the data specs look like. And I can help someone create a document if they would like to try that. We've had a few people go to that and they really like it. It works really well, okay? All right, I see a question that says, when I go to the 1920 school year, the only access I have is view print. And there could be 2 reasons for that. Number 1, the student data management is not turned on yet. That will only be able to be submitted in May. Number 2, you have to have access level of district approve or district update or school approve. So if you status, and you can see that in the upper right hand corner of your screen, if it says school update, you'll need to switch it to school approve in order to put in your student data. And you do that with the manage my account button, and that's all written on the checklist also. You're welcome. Okay, so here we go. This is what the report screen looks like. The arrows are pointing at the student career course completion report and the downloadable basic enrollment report. Typically, you guys are not going to be the ones who take a look at the CAR reports down at the bottom. That's the consolidated annual report that is submitted for the state for Perkins funding. If you are, then the downloadable basic enrollment report will help you to back up any of the numbers listed in those reports at the bottom, okay? This is a lot, but this is the calculation for any of those reports, okay? Just in case anybody needed it, that it's gonna be there for you. You know, that is just another way for me to let you know that what you do is very important. And a lot of times it may feel as if you're just jumping through hoops over and over again for KSDE, but I try really hard to explain why. And this right here is why. This is why we need the student data to support the extra funding that we get for CTE pathways and to benefit CTE students, okay? That's all I got. I got question slide. I don't know, Joni, if you need anything else, but I will be available.
Okay, thank you, Angie. I didn't see any additional questions, and I think the 3 things that I wrote down that people have asked for is that we will put out the student data management checklist to everyone. Also, Valley Center's report, that sample document, and also they would like a copy of your PowerPoint. So I'll get with you after this session sometime today or tomorrow. I know our recording rendering piece will not be done for, usually it takes a couple days for us to work through all of that, but we'll send that out, and then I will also attach it to the April agenda for this session. So if you went in there, we'll put those documents in there as well. So Angie, thank you so much for taking time with us to walk through these various reports, and also for your patience, as we all call you and Amanda both at the help desk. We really appreciate you working with us and helping us through these steps, because sometimes we only do them once a year and we forget. So thank you.
That's exactly right. You know, everything, when you do it just once a year, it takes multiple years to get good at it. So you know, Amanda and I are here to help at any time. I've been doing it for about 8 years now. Can you believe that?
We're glad you're here.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Joni. Take care.
Thank you.